questions. And then also just to like piggyback on what Kathy said, Karen runs our vendor program, and I'm one of the board members, and I actually had an issue with one of our vendors, and Karen like holds their feet to the fire, right? And it was resolved like the same day I contacted Karen. So, and that's the beauty of using our vendors, is that if you got a problem, you just contact Karen, one of the board members, and they take care of it. So that's the protection that you have with using our vendors. So I just wanted to throw that out there and piggyback what Kathy said, and just thank her for that, because I just wanted to say that because I actually had that issue, but it was resolved like the same day. And trust me, Karen will take care of it. So
Karen lives up to the name Karen when I have to.
Karen's a big stick, buddy. Trust me. So thanks, Karen. But yeah, you have that protection with our vendors. So definitely reach out to the vendors. All right, so let's get into it. And like I said, I wanted to do this one live for you guys, even though I'm here on vacation. I told my family, I was like, stay out of the room and don't bug me. I'm gonna do this real quick and about an hour or so, and then they can come back and do whatever. But trust me, they're having fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and they can care less, so they don't care what I'm doing. So, but all right, let's get into it. So, business credit, and I always tell folks, this is essential, right? So it is essential as a real estate investor in any business, right? That you're gonna venture into, because we all know that if you don't have capital, then your business is not going to go far at all, right? You always hear people say, "Oh, you can do this business without money." Yes, you can. You can do it with other people's money, but the bottom line is still that they may require for you to show them, what you've done to build credit on your own, and all these different things. And so, yeah, you don't have to have, money to start this business. However, I will tell you, the more money you have, it opens up so many more doors to you. So just be aware. So we'll get into this now. And then if some of you, if you haven't, by the way, put in the chat. So let me know how many you've already incorporated your business. If you already set your business up through the Secretary of State or an attorney and all, how many of you have already done that? Because if you haven't, then you definitely need to see these first few slides. So I'm just curious if you can put in the chat yes or no if you've done it already.
Got a lot of yeses, Lionel, a whole lot of yeses.
Got you. Okay.
That's great.
Awesome. And then if you guys have questions, please ask the questions throughout. I know Karen, are you going to be on the whole time?
Yep,
Okay.
I am.
So Karen normally monitors the questions. You can put them in the chat. If you want to come off mute, then just raise your hand. If you're not to use Zoom, just raise your hand, and then Karen, she'll stop me, and then we'll just chime in and take care of it right there on the spot. All righty, let's go. All right, so compliance. I know a lot of you said you've already incorporated your business, and that's great. The key is to make sure that you did it correctly when you incorporate it. Yeah, if you had an attorney, that's great, but there are other steps outside of that to building business credit, right? You can set up the Secretary of State, you can do all those good things, but then there's so many other steps when you start dealing with Dun & Bradstreet. So if you don't know Dun & Bradstreet, they're the big guys in town when it comes to business credit, right? So they're the FICO of the business world, right? So Dun & Bradstreet. So while I'm talking about this, so once again, this is interactive, folks. So your little fingers are gonna work. So put in the chat if you already have what we call a DUNS number, D-U-N-S, DUNS number, or if you've already got dealt with Dun & Bradstreet. So if you have, put yes. If you haven't, put no. And I'll keep talking while you're doing that.
Yes, no, yes, yes. No, no, yes, yes, no, no, no. We got a little of all.
All right, so put yes if that means DUNS number. If you folks put no, don't worry about it. So if you put yes, tell me if you have a DUNS number. Put yes in the chat.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes. All right, so 5 or 6. Okay, great. All right, so compliance for your business. And those of you that have a DUNS number, that's great. Just also make sure, like when I'm going through this, you've done some of these other steps, because even if you have a DUNS number, some of these other companies that you may start to go through or seek business credit, if you're not registered in certain places, they'll just assume that you're just not legitimate, right? And they won't loan credit to you. And then I'm going to show you like tonight, like what it takes to like get to a PAYDET score of 80, right? I did this in like 8 months, and I've actually did this class last year, and I got an email from one of the ladies that was in the room and said she did in 6 months, right? By following the same model. So you can do that. I paid for it. You don't have to pay for it. I'm going to show you how to do it. All right, so where to register your business? You got to register your business. You got to get it out there. We know that social media and everything is a big monster. So, having a business email, not a Gmail. So I have a Gmail too, but having an actual business email with your company name, right? So you can do that through Google and pay and have lfinley@property solutions or whatever it is, but just make sure you have a actual business email, right? So it just makes you more professional with companies, and also just make sure you have that. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money. Like I said, you can get through Google and pay that little fee, and they'll give you an actual business email. So a business phone, same thing. You can actually use your cell phone like I do. Most folks use their cell phone as their business phone. But what I would recommend to you, what some of you probably may already have, is a Google Voice number or number through Ring Central, and then you forward that number to your cell phone, right? So, and the good thing about it is that when you're, say if you're wholesaling or you're doing these type of campaigns, if you have different Google Voice numbers and you forward them to your cell phone, you can actually know like who's calling you from which campaign that you run, right? So if you did a absentee owner or, you know, pre-foreclosure, just based off that phone number they're calling you from, you'll know like, okay, yeah, this is from this campaign, and that's how you can actually track that, right? So make sure all those numbers are actually forwarded to your cell phone. And then of course, having a business website, that goes without question, right? If you don't have a website, most folks just consider that you're just not legitimate, you're not in business, you're not professional. So definitely having a website. And if you don't have a website yet, if you're new, how many of you aware that you actually get a free website with your membership? Put yes in the chat if you're aware of that. If you're not, put no. So we're going to take care of you.
Yes, 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 yes. Yay, we've educated them.
All right.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So I told you little fingers are going to work tonight. All right. So PO Box. Now I had this in red because previously with Dun & Bradstreet, if you had a PO box or a UPS store box, or I mean, they would not work for business credit, but that's actually changed now. So you can have a UPS store, you can have a PO box, you can have all that. It actually works for business credit. Dun & Bradstreet will not hammer you anymore for that. So you can actually have a PO box. Like I have a UPS store. I just like it because you get an address, and then you can register in Manta. It's another place where you can also register your business. Which business entity is required to build business credit? And so this is a good one because a lot of folks have what we call a sole proprietorship. And I'm glad Kathy's on here because she probably can attest to some of this. But typically folks are going to set up C Corp, S Corp, or LLC. But a lot of times what folks don't realize is that they set up a sole proprietorship because they set up an LLC and they become a single member LLC, but they don't file the form 8832 that has them taxed as an S Corp. So by default, you become a sole proprietor if you're a single member LLC. And I don't like to get into all that because like I said, I'm not an attorney, but I just know that if you do that, you will not have the protections of an actual corporation LLC. And then, if something ever happens where the corporate veil is pierced, and that's a whole nother course, then, they can come after your personal assets. So you want to make sure that that you're secured and make sure you have the right entity set up for your business. Typically, most folks are going to be an LLC, but like I said, you want to make sure that you're not a single member LLC. All right, so I must be right because Kathy didn't say anything.
Yeah, and Lionel,
Absolutely.
can you repeat the form number?
Sure, it's going to come up here on the slide in a minute. It's form
Okay.
8832.
Okay.
All right, so continuing on, how long does it take to build business credit? So typically it takes anywhere from 2 to 3 years, right? But if you follow this model I'm going to teach you tonight, then you can actually do this in 6 to 8 months or 6 to 12 months, as fast as you want to, with literally spending 50 to $100 and paying it off in 3 to 4 days, right? So that's how you build your credit really fast. And so, the big three of business credit, you have Dun & Bradstreet, Equifax Business, and Experian. Those are the big three, and you'll see those here in a minute of business credit world. But like I said, Dun & Bradstreet, they're like the big elephant in the room. They run pretty much everything when it comes to business world. And then of course, like I mentioned earlier, you have the Paydex versus FICO. FICO, of course, being your personal, and Paydex being your business. And this is the other thing too, is like you'll have folks, like I've done it before too, and I've secured business credit cards, and it says business credit card, and then I go find out on my personal credit report, it's shown by my personal. So you always have to ask those questions: is, hey, do you report to Dun & Bradstreet? Is this a true commercial or business card? Because a lot of times, and American Express is good for it, that they'll give you a corporate card or a business card, and then you'll find out that they're reporting to your personal, right? So if they're not reporting to your business, you're not getting credit for it. So you always have to ask those questions. Hey, are you reporting to Dun & Bradstreet or one of the other ones? But make sure it's not reporting to your personal, because then that hits you and your credit score goes down. So it doesn't really help you out. was required to, so we're going through that right now. So business credit and personal credit, completely different, right? You can have a 200 personal credit and still have a great business credit. So you don't necessarily have to have good personal credit to actually get good business credit. They're completely separate. So two different separate entities when it comes to building credit. Just for instance, take example of, say if you had to have Lowe's, for instance, right? So Lowe's has a Lowe's commercial card, and just say if your credit score is too low, and Lowe's will actually pull your personal, right? But then you can talk to them, work some things out, but Lowe's will pull your personal. But if you have other people in your company, right, and you add them to your operating agreement, you can be 99% and have them as 1%, but then actually use their credit to build your business credit. So you don't necessarily have to have, like I said, 700 or 800. You can use other people in your company, but you will probably have to put them on your operating agreement and all that good stuff. So like I said, you can build this and we'll go through it and I'll show you here shortly, but it's something you could definitely do simple, easy, and quickly. All right, so trade credit, vendor credit, corporate credit. So we all have heard of Sherwin-Williams, right? So Sherwin-Williams has what they call a home store, and they also have a corporate store. So when you're going to somewhere like Sherwin-Williams, you always have to ask that question: is this a home store and corporate store? And you will be surprised at how many of them look at you like, what are you talking about? Because they don't know themselves, right? So, and what I mean by corporate store is that they have an actual person that's an actual salesman there or a saleswoman. Their job is to secure people like you and I, right? And give us accounts and give us a whatever credit line. That's their job. The home stores, they don't have a salesperson there. So if you're in Raleigh, the store that's located right off of Tryon, the Sherwin-Williams right off of Tryon, they actually have, that's a corporate store. So if you go there and let them know what you're doing, they can actually set you up an actual corporate account, and they report to Dun & Bradstreet. So like I said, it's right off Tryon Road in Raleigh, and go there and they'll set you up an account. So vendors like Uline, there's a bunch of them out there. I would tell you, Uline will give credit to somebody that's 6 feet under. So Uline is a great one. They do what they call net 30 turns, which we'll talk about that here in a minute. But Uline is another good one where they'll give you an actual credit with Uline. And this is the reason why I say Uline, because if you buy toilet paper, gloves, just disposable gloves, masks, paper towels, any of those type of things for your business, trash paper, right? You buy those for your business like I do, but I also just happen to use it for my home use, right? So, but I buy that stuff like every 60 days, right? And I use it for part of my business and also part at home. So I'm actually also getting credit for that, even though I have an 80 PayDex score, but it still helps you to build your business credit because you can use it for twofold, right? On two different fronts. So that's why having a company like Uline is good. And then you'll see on slide here, a bunch of different companies that, you'll be able to set up some vendor trade credit with. My first company was actually a potato chip company out of Greensboro. So my son was 4 years old and I would buy potato chips, and they reported Dun & Bradstreet, and it was just amazing because I would spend like $50 and I would have some of those sitting in my office, but I'd also put some of my son's lunchbox, right? So like I say, anybody that's going to give you what we call terms and report Dun & Bradstreet, don't frown upon them. You're going to see a flowers company on here in a minute that actually they report to Dun & Bradstreet. All right, corporate credit, we'll talk about credit cards and all this stuff. All right, so single largest source of lending in the entire world, more than banks loan to businesses. So I need to reword that because that's not right there. But once again, banks, of course, they lend to us, but once again, it's banks. When you start talking about traditional funding, it's going to be a little harder to get into banks. When I got my first loan to bank, I actually had to show this whole little spiel of what I do and how I do it, a business plan, all that good stuff. So, and then also the business credit, the PayDex score that came with it. So it's all these different things that go into it. Also, when we deal with banks, so it's going to be a little tougher with banks. And typically, you want to have at least 2 years of history with banks, and they're going to require all this stuff from you. Trades and vendors and corporate credit is typically not going to ask that from you. But like I said, you're going to be able to build your credit faster because these banks are going to require at least 2 years minimum. They won't require PayDex, but if you have a PayDex of 80, it's going to help a tremendous amount. I bought 2 trucks for a company, $250,000 each. and I got one through Hitachi Financial, one through Fifth Third, and it was like no issue whatsoever. And you'll see here in a minute when I showed you an actual report, where it's going to show an actual bank or a lender how much they can give you based on your viability. And this report you're going to see is old, but it's just an example. All right, so I talked earlier about, you heard me say net 30 terms. So net 30 terms mean that you have to pay back that amount within 30 days, right? Net 10 terms within 10 days, or net 20 days. The key with building your Paydex quicker is that if you get net 30 terms, folks, this is not a regular credit card. You do not wait 30 days to pay it. If you make a $50 charge, you pay it off within 3 to 4 days. And I'm going to show you here in a minute why. Right? Because Dun & Bradstreet is going to give you more points if you pay it off faster than if you wait till the 29th or 30th day. Because to them, if you're waiting until the 28th, 29th, or 30th day, it shows that you have the potential to be late, even though you're early, right? But if you pay 3 to 4 days after you buy it, even if you don't have the statement, it doesn't matter, right? Because everything's online now, right? And make that payment. You're going to make the payment before they even issue a statement. It's going to be paid. And they're going to report that to Dun & Bradstreet, and Dun & Bradstreet is going to give you way more points for that than if you wait until, 30th day. They're going to say, oh, this person has the potential to be late, right? All right, so you can see statistics here as far as most businesses, and that typically revolves around not having enough capital, right, for the business. We feed a monster in what we do, and like I said, you're going to have money, private lenders, bank money, credit card money, all kinds. You're going to have, a mix of all this to be able to not really be successful, but it just helps you that when you're getting a bind that you can pull out, this piece of plastic and say, yeah, you know what, I need 10% for this funding, and all right, I can put it on a corporate card, but I need to hurry up and flip this house so I can pay that back off. And then you see at the blown up bottom, owner's education, access to capital. That's the biggest thing, is that folks don't educate themselves and they don't have enough capital to run their business. All right, so continuing on, of course, compliance, we already talked about that. Legitimate, an address, a commercial line. So we talked about you can use any of these pages here to register, having a VoIP, that's voice over internet protocol. A lot of folks will do that now and have a phone that basically runs right through the internet, and just make sure you register in these places here. So this foreign corporation, most of you have already incorporated. So you know it is, you should, well, you may not know if you're incorporated in North Carolina, but I'm incorporated actually in Nevada. And so this calls a certificate of good standing. So every year, at the end of every year, I have to reapply back to North Carolina, saying that my business is in good standing with Nevada, and I have to get this certificate of good standing with Nevada, send it to North Carolina so they can, once again, register me for the year. Now, and you guys can talk more with other attorneys and what's the best and where should you incorporate. And this is me, right? So you saw the disclaimer earlier. This is Lionel talking. This is what I do, right? I always tell people don't do what I do, because sometimes it gets you in trouble, but don't say I told you to do this. However, this is me. So I incorporate Nevada. If I had to do it all over again, I would never incorporate Nevada, because, and Leslie's shaking her head. You know why? Because I have to pay twice every single year. I have to pay Nevada to re-register, and then I have to pay that for my annual report. Then Nevada, they have some other crap. I forget, some business, they have a business thing that I have to pay for. So I got like 3 or 4 things I have to pay for Nevada before I can get this little piece of paper here that says I'm in good standing. And then once I get the piece of paper, now I got to go to North Carolina, and now I got to pay for stuff in North Carolina, right? So I paid twice. So if I had to do it all over again, you hear people say, oh, the Wyoming and Delaware and all these other places. Folks, it's up to you, but I just would not do it. And I'm just telling you, I've been doing this for a long time. Kathy's an attorney. She's on here. She's shaking her head no, and Leslie's shaking her head no. And so,
yeah, people like to sell programs and tell you why you need to be super secret and use those states, but it's overkill. It's not needed.
Absolutely. So, that's one of the main reasons why you're here tonight, because like I said, it's just like I talked about the vendor program, it protects you. And then, we can get on here, we can talk, and, we got an attorney on here that says, no, don't do it. It's just, like I said, it's just a whole money thing, right? Everybody has to make money. So like I said, this year, it just costs me every single year, and it just burns me up every December. I just go, ugh, I pay all this damn money to Nevada. And the only reason, some of you are probably saying, well, stop it. Well, I won't, because I incorporated in 2012. And so if I stop it now and set up a whole new company in North Carolina, then it's 2023. And so now if I go to banks, they're like, oh, we need to lose 2 years. So that's just why I bite the bullet every year and I just pay Nevada. So, but I'm telling you, if you don't have to, if you're already incorporated somewhere else, then hey, if you're within a short time period and you just incorporated in, say, one of these other states, maybe you want to go ahead and incorporate North Carolina. Me personally, that's what I would do. EIN number, if you're incorporated, I know some people that have incorporated and for some reason they think that that gives them an EIN number, my brother. So, so you have to, my brother started a trucking company. He's like, oh, I got my EIN number. I said, did you go to IRS website? He's like, no. I said, well, you need to go to IRS website. You get this in like 5 minutes. So if you don't have EIN number, make sure you at least take care of that. Let's see. Take your EIN number. So a business license. Now, not everywhere requires that you have a business license to do what we do, right? But you need to check each county, each city and see if they require or not, because just because you may not require one in Raleigh or Wake County to flip homes does not mean that if you go to Mecklenburg County or Brunswick or somewhere else like that, that they're not going to require it. So you need to check and make sure that a business license is not required in some of these other states because, I mean, other cities or counties because they may require it. A business account, same thing. I mean, I had to, like, I gave my brother like all his education because it's like he didn't know that he had to have all these things set up, right? So if you don't have a business account, you go to a bank and ask to borrow money, they're gonna look at you like you're crazy, right? You need to have a business account set up, right? It needs to match your company name and all that good stuff. And you're gonna have to have the EIN number. If you're an LLC, you're gonna have to have the operating agreement. These are all things that you're gonna have to take to the bank. So just make sure that you have all the stuff set up when you go to the bank and start asking for a new account. And then, of course, you don't really need to have these, but it would behoove you to have it. So your SIC, which is standardized industrialization code, and then your NAICS code. Now, if you're planning on doing any government, right, state or federal, this right here is extremely important, right? You're going to need to have these if you plan on doing anything with the federal or state governments, local governments. They're going to require that 100% all day long. So just make sure you look those up. You can Google it and you see these codes here that I have set up. They should not have changed, but you can look at those codes and make sure they're still the same. But that's what I use. And I'm also set up with the federal government and state government. So if you do that, like they send me all kind of bids every single day. They call me every single day. It's a pain in the butt. You've heard Kathy talk to you earlier about Debbie's going to be coming in and teaching you about different grants and things like that. And so you may end up doing some government stuff. So these things that they're going to require. So if you haven't done that yet, also make sure you take a look at those codes and see what's going to best fit your business. All right, so here's a form earlier that Karen asked about. So if you're a sole proprietor, which you may not know you are, but maybe tonight you do, if you're a single member LLC, send this form into the IRS, right? You're going to have your taxes and S Corp. S Corp, and then you have the protections of being a corporation. What is the best? Don't ask me, talk to an attorney. Talk about your business and see what's best for you. I will tell you that I incorporated Nevada and I did this, but if I had to do it all over again, I would do this. All right, so you don't necessarily need to be a S Corp, do this business, and definitely not a C Corp, and you'll see why here in a minute. But like I said, most folks in our business and what we do, they're set up as an LLC. And then you can get into all these other things. We can get into the weeds of, do you need to have an LLC for your passive income and LLC for your active income and a trust account? And what I would tell you, talk to your attorney. Because what I do may not work best for you. And so they need to know exactly what you plan on doing with your business, who all is involved, who you're going to leave this to and all this good stuff. They need to know, and then they'll be able to direct you which is the best structure for you. But like I said, I'm not an attorney, but I just know what works best for me. And I need to change it up myself, be very honest. All right, business checking, business credit cards. We talked about the business credit cards. Like I said, make sure that they report to Dun & Bradstreet, because if they don't, then typically it's not a true business credit card. And have your business profile. We talked about email. So trusted agent. So you can contact an attorney. Attorney can be your trusted agent. So there's a gamut of companies that will charge you $30, $35 to be a registered agent for you. And some of you may know what it is, some of you may not, but I will give you the story. And this is why you probably need to have one. So Tabitha, won't give your last name. Tabitha used to be one of my tenants. Tabitha did not pay rent for 4 months. She was Section 8, so it was, it was one of those things where she was working with some other companies and they would help pay her rent and all this stuff for her. So Section 8 would give her a certain amount, and then she worked with some of these other companies and they would give her a certain amount. And so all she ended up having to pay in the end was $90. $90, folks. That freaking SUV cost me $90 for gas in. So Tabitha would not pay her $90. And I'm one of those, and my wife's like, she's like Karen. My wife doesn't take any right? You know what? And so, but I was being nice because she had a son that was disabled. And I said, okay, I said, look, I said, these are the forms you need to fill out, sign these forms, you know, turn them into the Section 8 folks and all this stuff. And I said, there's a form here, because typically you fill out the form and say, hey, you need to transfer and put the electric in your name and all this stuff. And she signed it all. And of course, me, I was flipping God knows how many properties at that time. And I would get all these bills that come in every single month for Duke Energy. And hey, I was just paying, stroke a check, right? 4 months later, I get a phone call from Miss Tabitha saying, hey, why are you turning off my electric? So I got this property subject to, and Kathy talked a little bit about this earlier. So I got this property subject to, all it cost me was to close on it. So I got it subject to, and then 2 years later, I'm going to sell it. And so I told Tabitha, I said, hey, I'm going to resell the property. And, you know, so the folks that I was selling to, they wanted to check, you know, they were in the process of putting the electric in the name, all this good stuff. So she called me, she's like, hey, you turned off my electric. I said, well, why the hell are you calling me? I said, it's in your name, not mine. She's like, well, no, they said you have to call. I said, that doesn't make any sense. Why do I need to call? So long story short, I called them, and it is in my business name. Gonna find out, Tabitha never changed it over, and I never checked because I was just stroking checks every single month for all the bills that came in, right, from Duke Energy, and of course hers was in the mix. And my wife was like, why didn't you blah, 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 and it's heard her mouth by, you know, you don't keep track of stuff, you just blah, 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 and all this other crap, right? So long story short, Tabitha takes me to court. She used legal aid in Durham. They tell her she doesn't have a case because, hey, you still have to get out anyways, and then you didn't do what you're supposed to do with your electric and all of this stuff. So Tabitha, she's like, I'm gonna tell you folks, some of these tenants know the law better than some attorneys do, especially the ones that are like trying to always get over, right? And that was Miss Tabitha. And so Miss Tabitha looks me up on the Secretary of State, and she's like, hey, well, I got your address here, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, you don't. She's like, yeah, your address is 24, blah, 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 such and such. And it was my UPS store mailbox address, right? And I also had a registered agent. So the key to the registered agent is that they will do all this stuff for you, and their address will actually pop up in the Secretary of State to where none of your personal address and any information like that will pop up, right? And so, you know, just imagine if that was someone else outside of her, and it was actually my home address, and she wanted to come to my address when I'm out of town, and God knows what can happen. So I know some of you probably don't hear tonight, it's like, oh shit, my personal address is on the Secretary of State website. So like I said, this is something that you probably need to take care of like yesterday and get a registered agent for you. Like I said, you can contact an attorney, you can contact NC registered agents, all this good stuff, but you need to take care of that ASAP. It's a small fee to give you a peace of mind, especially if you're going to be renting out properties and whatever you're going to do for people not to be able to come to your house and just show up when they want to. Because you, like I did, well, I didn't have personal information, but I have a mailbox on there. So just make sure you take care of that. All right, continuing on, we talked about sole proprietor. You definitely don't want to do this because, like I said, if something happens, not only if it's a very savvy attorney, they're going to look everything up, they're going to go after your business, and they're going to go after your personal assets. So make sure that, like I said, you're not a sole proprietor. Corporations, you're going to see here in a minute, and you will get these slides. So you're going to see this big little chart in a second, give you all the benefits, pros and cons, whatever's going to work best for you. And then, of course, having a LLC. So most folks like mine, they will either be member managed or manager managed or whatever, however you're going to set your LLC up. And so if you have a lot of different folks in your company, like I said, you can give them different titles of whether it's member, manager, whatever the structure is. You know, now, as far as any LLCs, is myself and my spouse, even though she doesn't really have anything to do with the business, but when something goes wrong, got to hear that mouth, right? So just be aware, like I said, set up correctly. So this is the chart I was referring to. Like I said, you can take a look at it real quick and see which one's going to work best for you. Like I said, you will be able to get these slides. You will also want to speak with an attorney or someone that can set this up for you properly based on what you're going to do with your business. All right. All right, so this is what I talked about earlier, that you're gonna see, you know, a bunch of different companies that I've used, and like I said, Uline I still use it to this day. Some business credit cards that I still have. I love that Citi American Airlines because I get free tickets. I love that one. Capital One Spark is another good one. Amex has a good one. There's another company called Atlantic Union, right? It's not up here. They have a card they will also give you. wish I had my wallet right here because I just pull it out right now. Oh, there we go. Let me give you some other ones too, because like I said, I just, this is, and I left them. So Chase also has good business cards. What else? And that's pretty much most of the ones that I have. Like I said, Citibank. And if you get these cards, right, try to get the ones that have like a lot of rewards with it. Like I said, American Airlines, that's a really good one to get because like I said, I get free plane tickets. And then you're gonna, what I typically do is, like I got a property right now. So what I typically do is I will buy a lot of materials with my card. And then when I get my draw, then I'll just pay it right off, right? The key is I want to get those awards, right? And get those awards. And then the key is not holding, you don't want to hold this stuff on your credit cards for 3-6 months or whatever, because now you have that interest too. And most of these credit cards, they're 20+% a month in interest, right? So you want to make sure you pay them off quick. But like I said, there's a lot of good cards out there where I like rewards because that's the best thing for me. And, you know, being able to have all these cards coming every month for restaurants and all, and then of course I don't get to spend them. My wife does. And, you know, that's just nature of the beast. And then you take a look at some of the bad and ugly that people typically do and screw up, not incorporating correctly. You know, so we talked about trade credit, revolving credit, bank credit lines. And like I said, folks don't like to use, you know, they'll say they don't like to use revolving credit. I don't either, but have that in your back pocket because you never know when you're going to need it. All right, so have it in your back pocket. Lowe's has a good, if you go to Lowe's has a good program. They have a commercial card. They also have what they call a LAR, which is Lowe's Accounts Receivable. So I do jobs for clients too. So what they'll do is, if you have, just say if you just happen to have $50,000 laying around, you can actually go to Lowe's and set up an accounts receivable. And what will happen is your general contractor, your subs can buy stuff from Lowe's and then it will just show up, right? And you can see it. So instead of you, even if you want to have them go and buy the materials, you can see what they're spending. Because a lot of times in this business, if you allow contractors to go and buy stuff for you, right? So they may go out and spend $1,200 on materials, right? And then they'll send you a bill for $1,500. So this is a way for you to keep track of yourself. If you're doing like Lowe's accounts receivable or something like that, or if you're using different business credit cards, but you can keep track of yourself and you can control it. Because a lot of times people always ask me, hey, do you let contractors buy materials for you? No, I don't. Some people do. But if you have a Lowe's accounts receivable, you can have them do that for you, but you can see exactly what they're spending. But I typically don't let contractors purchase anything for me unless I have to. I have one, Chris Battle, he's been my plumber for years, and he'll buy stuff and then I'll just reimburse him because he's honest, he doesn't rip me off. All right, so we talked about this business credit, having that payment score 80, which is essential. And folks, all you need is an 80. You don't need 90, you don't need 100, you don't need any of that stuff. All you need is an 80. That's all you need in the business world. And people start sending you all kind of cards. I get so much crap in the mail and I just go straight to the shredder. But that's all you need is an 80. And like I said, versus a FICO, this is not the FICO world. But I will tell you that some of these cards or some of these banks or whatever, they're going to say, hey, we need to pull your personal and see what your personal looks like before they even think about giving you business, whatever. So just be aware of that, right? Just because you're going after business does not mean they're not going to pull your personal, because a lot of them still will pull your personal. Now, for those of you that have already received a DUNS number, if you're going through Dun & Bradstreet, if you're doing this through Dun & Bradstreet, then hopefully you can get out of it. But Dun & Bradstreet, what typically happen is, especially when you're new, is when you make your first purchase, what will happen is Dun & Bradstreet will see it, it pops up, and then they'll start calling you and want you to pay $300 or $400 a month to help you get your payment score 80 or quicker and all this stuff. Don't do it, folks. You don't need to pay them $300 or $400 a month because that's what they're going to want to charge you, right? But you don't need to do that. They're going to say, oh, we're going to do this, help you get your DUNS number quicker. No, they're not. As soon as that first creditor reports to Dun & Bradstreet, Dun & Bradstreet automatically generates your DUNS number, right? So it's nothing that they can do that's going to get it to you any quicker or anything like that. It's automatic. They generate it for you, right? But like I said, they will try to charge you and have you pay for a plan where, you know, we can get your credit, you know, you pay the score quicker, and you don't need to do that, right? Small purchases, 50, 60, $100, pay them off in 3 to 4 days. That's all you need to do. In about 8 months, you will have a payment score of 80. It works. All right, and so take a look. So we got the big three on the left, Dun & Bradstreet being the biggest. So I'm going to show you some tiers here in a minute. So you want to at least have 3 to 5 vendors or trade lines from each one of these. So tier 1, 2, and 3, you want to have at least 3 to 5 from each one. And then now you can see here a payday score of 80, prompt, discount, anticipate, blah, 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 all these different things. But this is where it starts to hurt you, right? Below this red line. And so, 15 days beyond terms, 22. And like I said, if you're close, even if you're paying on date 20, 29, 30, it's not going to hurt you. Just that instead of you getting 8 points, you may only get 2 points, right? So you're just moving slower up the ladder to get into that 80 of a payday score. So like I said, pay it off quickly, your score will increase quickly. All right, so here's my old D&B. This is pretty much around the time when I first started. And this is what typically it looks like with Dun & Bradstreet. Maybe update a little bit now. But when you get a report for Dun & Bradstreet, this is what it looks like. Looks like something just like this. And you'll see the stuff I talked about earlier. Now, there's one of my old phone numbers, I have an address, all this stuff that you need to have on here is my, go back. There's my DUNS number. And we start going down. And so you can see how this looks completely different than an actual regular credit report. And with Dun & Bradstreet, you see they'll start to grade you, right? And they'll give you different numbers based on what you've been doing in your business. At this time, they had graded me on a B, and at this time, my business was fairly new. And this is what I was showing you earlier about Dun & Bradstreet. What they'll do is they'll start to put numbers on here based on what you've been doing of what someone should lend you, right? And that's what they'll start to do here. And then, of course, you see my commercial credit score of 2 and low risk of 1, high risk of 5, right? And so they start going through that whole end. You'll see right here, CEO is not me, it's actually my wife, and then no employees at the time, we put 5, and then here's my SIC code, and then that shows them right here, that code means single family house, homes, in construction. That's what, what I do, right? So that's why having those codes I showed you earlier is important, because they need to go on your, Dun & Bradstreet is going to show that on your report. That's why it's important. Same thing, we keep on going through, look at different things. So you can see right here, viability score, portfolio comparison, data depth indicator, a C at that time, which was not that great. But you can just see, 6, which is not that great. We're in the yellow. But like I said, this is what they get really, really in depth on how they rate your company. And then here we had a payday score of 80. And this is the key right here, folks. So if you take a look at this right now, so my business, when we started this, was December 2012. That's when we actually started this process. So December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So if you go through that and you see the UN, so at that time, they still didn't rate our business. And then December 2012, folks, and here we are in August. And in August, we hit a payday score of 80, right? So, and that was just simply by, like I said, making small purchases, paying them off in 3 to 4 to 5 days. And then we hit that payday score for 80. So you literally can do this on your own without having to pay Dun & Bradstreet any money whatsoever, right? So once again, December 2012, you see right here, 2012, August 2013, 8 months, folks. That's all you need. Like I said, small payments, all you need. All right, so we have our non-traditional lenders. Who are they? What do they do? Community banks. I love community banks just because I still have a small community bank now. When I go in there, they know my name, they know my wife, because she goes in to deposit checks for me and cash checks. Of course, you have private lenders, crowdfunding, angel funders, hard money lenders. And of course, if you've been on our website, you know that there's a plethora of lenders that the REIA has set up for you. There are vendors now. I actually use them too. So it's a great place to start, right? Especially if you're new, go right there, folks, because they know what we do and how we do it. They know what you need. If they tell you no, that means they're saving your butt because it was a bad deal, right? So definitely go to the website, check out our vendors. They're there for a reason. I gave you an example earlier, how we protect you, right? We vet these folks before we even have them come on board as a vendor. And I say we, I mean Kathy. And Kathy, she vets them all. They go through Kathy before they even come on board. So there will not be any companies on here that are going to be shysters, anybody like that. So definitely check out the lenders that are on the website. All right, so this is what I was talking about earlier, where you're going to pick at least from each tier, 3 to 5 different trades, right? So what you're going to pick from each tier. And so typically, if you look at this, right, so if you see something in green, that means they report to Dun and Bradstreet. If you see them in any other color of black, that means that you may have heard them, but they don't report to Dun and Bradstreet. Now, some of this may have changed. Some of these companies have gone out of business, right? But like if you look at Wawa here, right? People say, oh, Wawa only lends, has a card. They don't have stores in Virginia. So Wawa Fleet has a universal card. And I need to put that in parentheses and I do this again. So if you go to Wawa, ask for Wawa Fleet Universal, you can use that anywhere throughout the country and at any gas station, Sheetz, wherever. You can use it, Exxon, anywhere. It's a universal card, right? So I use my vehicle for business. I also use my vehicle for pleasure, right? What kind of card do you think I use? And what do you think that card reports to, right? So, like I said, you can double dip, because if you have your own personal vehicle you use for business, you can also use that card. And typically, if you use that card for business, it's not like you're going to stop and say, oh, I can't use my card tomorrow for personal. You're still going to use that card. So you're getting credit for that, folks. That's reported Dun and Bradstreet. So just be smart about how you, like I said, how you pick out different cards and trade vendors, because you want to make sure that's worth your while. But if you can use it for personal and business. Like I said, this is me. This is what Lionel does, right? That's what I do to get around some of the stuff and still can use it for both purposes. There's my floral company. I send my wife's flowers because she's the CEO of the company. So I just write it off. Where's my
Smart
tier?
man.
There's tier 2 right there. Yep. So, and like I said, this is, I have more, and like I said, this has changed, but you have to just do your research. All right. So same thing, tier 3 and 4. And there's more to this now these days, but like I said, Quill, Ferguson. So if you have been on Build.com, Build.com is actually owned by Ferguson's. Build.com has a lot of great products. They are really quality. So they also have a pro department. So you can also get set up with them as a pro and get credit for them also. And that's Build.com. They're not owned here, but like I said, they're owned by Ferguson's. And if you've ever been in Ferguson's, you know they're expensive, right? And so Build.com, like I said, they also sell some of this, but if you pay, say, for a faucet in Lowe's that costs you $80, you probably get that same faucet from Build.com for $80, but its quality is 10 times better, right? So check out Build.com. And once again, these ones in black here, right? You would think that, some of these folks reported to Dun & Bradstreet, and they don't, unless they just recently changed, but they don't report Dun & Bradstreet. And here's some more tier 2s. Of course, the ones being in with a star beside it, those are typically the ones that report. Like I said, you will get the slides, so don't try to write them down. I'll send the slides out right after the presentation. And same thing, here we go, just a list of them. It's a bunch of them. There's a Wawa Universal Fleet Card. It's a bunch of different companies on here, and then we go to tier 3. There's more in tier 3. Just give you an idea. So of course, if you haven't figured out by now, tier 1 being the lowest, tier 2, tier 3, so on and so on. Typically, you're going to work with tier 1. You're going to build up, for 3 months history with tier 1, and then you're going to go to tier 2. You're going to build up about 2 or 3 months history with tier 2. Then you're going to go to tier 3. By the time you get to tier 3, you should be close to hitting that 80 paydex score by the time you get to tier 3. And then tier 4. JCPenney are still in business right now, no. But tier 4, if you need it, if you can get tier 4 at the same time, when you get into tier 3, then fine, get your tier 4. But like I said, start out low, your first 90 days, do your tier 1, then your second 90 days, do your tier 2, and then after that, do your tier 3 and 4s. You can do those as synonymous, do them together, tier 3 and 4. All right, so this Amex corporate card, this is one that I have, right? So no personal guarantee. They didn't ask me to do a personal guarantee. Home Depot, I don't have this one, but I know that just depends on what you secure with them, if they ask for a personal guarantee or not. I've secured bank funding without a personal guarantee, auto lease. So this auto lease, so I haven't done an auto lease, but I bought 2 trucks for another company I started. I didn't have any personal guarantee whatsoever. Each one of those trucks are $250,000 each. And I paid them off in less than a year because COVID tanked that business, but I was able to actually sell those trucks. And so it made it look really good on my DMV report that I paid off a total of $500K and vehicles. And of course, now I started another trucking business with my brother. So I'm asking for punishment. And bank lines, like I said, and of course revolving credit. You know, this right here is not necessarily so because some of them will ask for a personal guarantee, some of them will not. Most of the ones that I have, I think all the ones I have, there's no personal guarantee on any of those cards whatsoever. So if something happens, it's strictly purely on my business, it's not, you know, doesn't report or hit my FICO score or anything like that. So that's the goal. It's like if you can secure without personal guarantee, that would be the key. But you know, if they ask you to sign a personal guarantee, so what, right? If they're going to give you $100,000 and say, hey, we need a personal guarantee from you, so what, right? If you're gonna pay it back, so it's not like you're just gonna run away and not pay it. But that's the key. Like when I went to Lowe's and I received a corporate account from Lowe's, and because they always bugged me for years and years, probably for like 10 years, I just never did it. And I just did it this year, right? And the guy, I was there for a year waiting on materials, and I said, man, I said, you still bugging me. I said, fine, I'll do it. I said, but the only way I do it is, I said, I'll do it in my business. I'm not giving you my social security number. He said, no problem. I said, really? He's like, yes, no problem. He said, what's your tax ID number? I gave my tax ID number, got my business name. He said, well, all we need is the last 4 of your social. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, these jokes just think you're slick, but they can still pull it up, right? So I gave him the last 4 of my social, but then instantly, like in a matter of when he hit that button, it came back $30,000 automatically, right? So like I said, it's, if you establish and set up your business credit correctly, you start securing different lines, the credit will start to come to you, right? So it's not to say that you can't go to Lowe's right now if you're new, right? Because Lowe's may give you 5 or 10K. Take that 5 or 10K and then continue to pay it off quicker. You're going to get bigger lines, because one thing what Lowe's will do is that Lowe's will give you 5 or 10K and they'll say, okay, well, you don't have a whole lot of history paying off, but once you pay it off for 5 or 6 months, Lowe's is going to come back and ask you to increase it, or they'll send you a letter to increase it. American Express will do the same thing. I got a letter from American Express last month and said that you now have an unlimited balance, but you have to still go through us. And the reason why they gave me an unlimited balance is because I was buying all materials on it. And then when I got a draw, I would pay it right off. I pay off $10,000 just like that quickly. And so I was doing that for 3 or 4 months. And next thing you know, I get this letter saying, hey, you now have an unlimited balance. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay, great. So give me an actual black card. Don't say I have an unlimited balance, but of course they didn't do that. And then here are the steps, right? So this is some of the stuff I talked about tonight. The steps that you have to go through, you know, to legitimize and build this credit. And typically, if you follow these steps, folks, then you're going to be fine, right? Follow these steps. The main thing is, if you have questions, I would suggest that everyone here should be able to have an attorney that they can always call, right? For anything, an attorney they can call or text or email. Yeah, they're probably going to charge you late hours, but you need to have someone that you can reach out to if you have questions or run into any kind of trouble whatsoever. But you definitely need to have an attorney, and there's other folks you need to have on your team too. If you're new, you're definitely gonna, you know, throughout this year and continuing on, that you're gonna get a whole lot of information on people you need to have on your team. For myself, we're coming to an end. For myself, I haven't been at the main meetings, but you'll start to see me there next month at the main meeting. So if you have questions or anything too, then always come and ask me, just like any of the board members. We're there for you to help you. Anything that you have, any questions. So that's it. Go ahead and put your questions in the chat, questions you have, and then we'll talk about it.
Lionel, so far the questions that you've gotten, Kathy or someone has answered them. You've gotten some great comments. So amazing to have resources like this. Thank you. This is insanely helpful. So guys, if you do have questions, put them in the chat. Or unmute so we can get your answers.
I'm sorry, Kathy. I had asked about the civil engineer, and my phone must have bounced us out, and I'm not able to go back and get that chat for that civil engineer.
Kathy, you're muted.
I'll find it and copy it again in there.
Lionel, you've got one. Do you open a business account with every bank you try to get a business line with?
Yeah, so typically you don't have to, but I will tell you that every bank that I've tried to get money from, I've actually put a little bit of money in their bank to actually get some of their money. So that's what I've done. Every single bank I've done that with. If I'm gonna go and get money from them, I want to at least see that, hey, I'm doing a little bit of banking with them. But like I said, I typically use the smaller banks, and some of the smaller banks I've used that I haven't, like Roxborough Savings Bank, they're up in Roxborough. I didn't put one dime in Roxborough Savings Bank, but they're a small bank, and small banks have to live money too, just like big banks to make money, right? So they end up doing a cash out refi on a rental property I had in Roxborough, but I never put money in the bank whatsoever. If you know me, you'll know that I don't like big banks like Wells and all those, because every time I've asked for money, they tell me no. So like, I'm not giving you my money. And they hold my money too long for, when I deposit a check, but that's not everyone's situation. So I typically like to use the smaller banks. And like I said, they typically will give me money. All right. So Fifth Third, they gave me money. What's the Hitachi Finance, they gave me money. All right. People that probably didn't heard of Hitachi Finance. Ally Bank, they finance a vehicle from me, right? So they give me money. So that's what I typically like to use.
How does one understand tiers in relation to companies?
Yeah, so you're talking about are you talking about the companies that are in those tiers? Is that what you're referring to?
Sydney, unmute. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, I was actually really trying to understand, like when you mentioned tiers, I know 1, 2, and 3 and 4. Are you talking about like you're rating them as they're more likely to report? Is that what
So-
you meant?
No, so tiers mean that those companies in their tiers, their credit is actually, and I should have said this earlier, their credit is easier to get. A tier 1 credit is easier to get than a tier 4.
I got you. Okay,
And that's
Makes sense.
typically how it works.
makes sense. Thanks.
Yep.
On the tier 1 to 4 slides, you mentioned getting line of credits from each tier. Did you mean get loans from tier 1 companies first, then 3 months later lines from tiers 2, then 3 months later get loans from 3 or 4, or does it matter when you get the loans?
Yeah, so you can get those in any order you want, but typically you want to, and the reason why, just like I just question just answered, typically the tier 1s are going to be easier to get for you, right? So they're going to be easier to get, and you're asking for a line, not loans, but you're asking for trade lines. So you ask for actual lines, right? Because those are going to be, like I said, net 30 terms, right? So they're going to give you net 30 terms, but typically you want tier 1s because they're going to be easy to get, but there's not loans. They're not really giving you loans in those different tiers. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Said, yeah. What else do we have? That's all that's in the chat. Maybe you just informed them so well, they don't have any questions.
Well, like I said, I'll send the slides out. I put my email in there earlier, so if you don't want to come up right now and ask a question, you can just always email me. And like I said, I'll give you the information you need. I will be at the next main meeting next month. So if you still have questions, you can just come over and hit me up at the table. I will be there also to answer your questions. But like I said, I'm an open book. So just ask me.
And everyone, just so you know, I'm only gonna say this once, so pay good attention. If you are in this meeting, if you attended, but only if you're in this meeting, you can view this recording. It will be posted, and the way you access it is this. It'll take a couple days before it's there, first of all. So actually, I'm gonna stop recording right